Now the next thing we're going to look at is how do you factor trinomials that don't start with x squared. Now I don't mean that they're like this, okay, because I'm assuming, hopefully, that you can rewrite this like that and continue to factor it as you normally would. And perhaps I should make it clear that I also don't mean something like this, where hopefully you would say, oh, look, I can factor out a 2 like this and move from there. Because again, I know how to factor this because we've done it in previous videos. I can factor this, I can factor this. Okay, so what I'm really looking for is something a lot more complicated. So I'm talking about something, so this is not what I mean. I mean, this is correct, but these are simpler, perhaps. Go away. Okay, so this is not what I'm talking about. What I am talking about is something that looks more like this. Okay? This might be a little bit more complicated to look at, okay, just because you're not used to it. But you're going to follow the same basic pattern. You can say, well, what are the different ways that I can get 2x squared? Well, you go 2x times x, right? It's pretty much the only way to do it. Yeah? Alright. The only way to get 3 is a 3 and a 1. So I'm going to try to match my strategy. It's a 3 and a 1. Okay, so I have to use a 2x and an x. I'll go ahead and put those in there. Now from the sign, I know they both have to be positive or they both have to be negative. Again, since this one is positive, that means they're both positive. So again, I'm assuming you've seen the previous videos on factoring like this, because you should start with those first, because jumping right into this is going to maybe be a little bit more than you're ready for. So both of those are positive. So now I've got the 3 and the 1. So it's just a question of what order I put them in. And again, this is kind of just easing you into what could potentially get more complicated. Okay, so if this is a 3 and a 1, let's check. Outer, inner, and that is exactly what I wanted it to be. Okay, so, and if it wasn't, I just flip them and see. But you'll definitely, in this kind of case, order definitely matters. Okay? Let's try another one. Let's try 2x squared plus 5x minus 3. Okay, like this. Alright, so again, I'm going to come in here and say, well, there's only one way I can get this. I can take 2x times x. I'm going to write these 2x times x. Now, this is a minus sign, so one of them has to be positive and one of them has to be negative. That's the only way to get a negative 3 is multiply negative number times positive number. Now, here, order matters. This is going to give me a different result than this. Okay, so I really need to watch it. I'm going to go ahead and have it the way I put it in initially. Like this. Now, the only way to do this is to get a 3 and a 1. So as long as I use those options, my first and my last will be taken care of, but what I really need to worry about is how I get the middle, the O and the I. Right. So if I plug these in here, I check outer, inner, x. That's in no way even close. Okay. So since that's not even close, I'm going to change numbers. So if you're writing this and not erasing like I am, I'm just erasing because I've only got a very, very small screen to work on. But I strongly encourage you to leave what you have on your paper here and say, this is wrong, the number's entirely wrong, so I'm going to change my numbers around. Okay. Okay, so instead of 3 and 1, let's try 1 and 3. Minus 6x plus x gives me minus 5x. So I've got the right number, wrong sign. So I'm really close. Right number, wrong sign. So switch signs. So again, I would write that on your paper if you're taking notes. Right number, wrong sign. So I'm going to switch the signs. And I'm just erasing it again because it's my prerogative, I suppose. Again, because I'm just trying to keep my paper clean for you guys. I think this is what I had. I deleted too much. Alright. So instead of, okay, so I had this. So now I'm just going to switch the signs. Instead of plus and minus, I'm going to do minus, plus. And now when I multiply this out, plus 6x minus x gives me 5x. And that's exactly what I was looking for. Okay? Funsies? Excited? Yay? Woo. So now that you're experts at that, let's try a problem that I would call desperately confusing. So this would be like a 5-point problem on a test. If everything else was like, you know, this one would be like a 3-point problem, then this one would be a 5-point problem. And I'm just telling you this so you kind of have an idea of, you know, if it's starting to feel hard, that's why. Because, you know, it is. It takes more and more and more out of you to solve these problems, and that's intentional. Okay? So now, this is all kinds of exciting. The reason it's all kinds of exciting is because I can either do 2x and 3x, or I can do x and 6x. Here I can do 2 and 3, or 6 and 1. It just kind of depends. So go ahead and see if you can solve this on your own. And if you can't, come back. Well, even if you can, come back and make sure you got the right answer. But these are the kind of problems that can make things all kinds of exciting, because you just got a whole lot of options, you know. Before, at least I was able to say, well, this one's 2x and this one's x. Well, I can't do that anymore. And I was writing it in nice, big, bold, black, because I was confident, you know, that was 2x and this one's x. But that was because in this previous problem up here, there were only 2 options. I mean, that was the only option, 2x and x. But here I have 2 different choices. I could do this one, or I could do this one. And I'm not going to know until I plug the numbers in and start messing around with it. Okay? So I'm going to write this in blue. I'm kind of color coding it. Anything I'm not sure of are little notes on the side I'm doing in blue. So I'm going to try 2x and 3x. Now, since this is a minus, I know one of these has to be a plus and one of these has to be a minus. But again, I'm not sure what order. I'm just guessing. I might have to come in here and fix it. So there's like, I don't know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 8 combinations. There's like 8 different ways I think that you could combine these to get answers. So hopefully you don't have to go through all 8 of them, but you just might have to. Okay, so let's try 2 and 3. Maybe we'll luck out and that'll be right. So I know the first and the last are right by design, because I only use these options and I only use these options. So the first and the last have to be right, but it's the outer and the inner that I'm concerned about. Outer, inner, and yeah, that's not right. Okay, so my number's wrong. So let me try switching the numbers. Now, I have a choice. I can either switch these numbers, or I could switch these numbers, or I could switch these signs. And it just depends on how you feel like doing it. Ultimately, you might have to switch all of them, and it's just the way it goes. You ever play Mastermind? I don't know, it says no, like the little game where you're like, you know, you make up your colors, and then the other person has to guess what you did: red, green, yellow, or whatever, and then you get like chances, and then kind of when you got right in the right position, or right in the wrong position. That's kind of like what this is. So, what did I do? I didn't actually do anything. Let me switch the 2 and the 3, just see what happens. So, minus 4x. Oh, wow. Okay, so check it out. I got it. So that was just lucky that I accidentally guessed the right thing in the right order. And that's kind of how you want to solve these kinds of problems. Now, sometimes you can make observations about the problem that make them a little bit easier to solve. So this would be like a 4-point problem, I'd say. Say we had something like this. Okay? Now, in this case, I have multiple options for my 6, right? Use the same ones I had before. I can do 2x and 3x, or I can do x and 6x. Now, for the plus sign, I can either do a plus and a plus, or a minus and a minus. But since this is a minus, I need to use the minuses. Now, for the 3, I've only got one choice. I can do a 1 and a 3. So now, instead of automatically starting from the front, I'm going to automatically start from the back, because I know those have to be there. I also know they have to have a minus sign in front of them. So I'm going to go ahead and confidently write those out in pen or black or however you want to think about it. And now the only thing that I have to mess with is what goes here. And what goes here comes from here. Okay. So one option is to just dive in and say, okay, let's try the 2x and the 3x. Let's try the 3x and the 2x. But another strategy on a problem like this is to look and say, well, you know what? I happen to have a really, really big number right here, that 19. So I'm trying to think about what I could multiply together that would get high enough to even get to that 19. Okay? So if you think about it and you stare at it, and if you don't want to and you just want to plug them in and try, fine. I'm just trying to give you another strategy as well to go along with what you got. Is to look at this and say, you know, if I multiply any combination of those by any combination of those, I mean, the highest number I'm probably going to get is a 11, maybe. But look at what I do if I multiply these guys by these guys. I know that 6 times 3 is 18, so I'll betcha I need to use that 18. So what I want to do is I want to position my 6 to where I'll multiply it by the 3 to get that 18. So that means that the x has to go here. Okay, so you can do some strategy like that if you observe it, and if you can see the pattern, great. If not, you know, just go ahead and throw some numbers in there and give it a shot. But if you are comfortable doing it, go ahead and try and see if you can make some observations to figure it out. And the worst that's going to happen is you're wrong. It takes you longer to solve the problem, which is fine. So go with minus 18, minus x, and that indeed gives you negative 19x, which is exactly what we're looking for. Okay, so you can use these kind of strategies. Again, they're just continuing to push you a little bit harder just to make sure this is something that you can do.